Hare Krishna, everybody, welcome. This is Krishna Dasa. Today we are going to start chapter 5. Okay, so before we begin, let me say the prayers to Guru and God. Om Ajnanate Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurum Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. Today I
गुरु
think
गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु गुरुदेवो महेश्वर गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। आज की जय।
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
हरे कृष्ण।
So we are going to cover start chapter 5. So today we're going to do 5.1 to 5.4. Poonamji was here. Is she still there? Okay, she's there. So Poonamji, I'm starting. I'll start playing the Shlokas.
अथ पञ्चमोऽध्यायः सन्न्यासयोगः। अर्जुन उवाच सन्न्यासं कर्मणां कृष्ण पुनर्योगं च शंससि यच्छ्रेय एतयोरेकं तन्मे ब्रूहि सुनिश्चितम्। श्रीभगवानुवाच सन्न्यासः कर्मयोगश्च निःश्रेयसकरावुभौ तयोस्तु कर्म सन्न्यासात् कर्मयोगो विशिष्यते। ज्ञेयः स नित्यसन्न्यासी यो न द्वेष्टि न काङ्क्षति निर्द्वन्द्वो हि महाबाहो सुखं बन्धात् प्रमुच्यते। साङ्ख्ययोगौ पृथक् बालाः प्रवदन्ति न पण्डिताः एकमप्यास्थितः सम्यक् उभयोर्विन्दते फलम्।
Hare Krishna. Poonamji, you want to read the translations?
Yes. Hare Krishna to all. And thank you, Guruji, for giving me this opportunity.
No,
Hare
it's
Krishna.
you are inspiring us with your conviction. So
5.1. Arjuna said, "O Krishna, first of all, you asked me to renounce work, and then again you recommend me work with devotion. How will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial?" 5.2. The personality of Godhead replied, "The renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work." 5.3. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated. O mighty armed Arjuna. 5.4. Only the ignorant people of devotional service, Karma Yoga, as being different from the analytical study of the material world, Sankhya. Those who are actually learned those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Poonamji. You did well. Thank you. So let's start chapter 5. So chapter 5 is termed as Sanyasa Yoga. So basically, Krishna is going to talk more about the concept of karma and sannyasa. So very, very interesting segue to what we just learned up to chapter 4. So a lot of you may know this term, to be or not to be. Have you heard this? Very, very famous. It's one of Shakespeare's play. It's one of the most popular statements on the planet, to be or not to be. So here, Arjuna's confusion. Arjuna says, I'm confused, to act or not to act. So let us see what his confusion is. Okay, so Arjuna, he's asking Krishna, he's saying, Krishna, you praised karma sannyasa, which is renunciation of actions. And you also spoke about karma yoga. He's working with devotion. Now tell me for sure, which is more beneficial? No, this is our Arjuna. Okay. So let's see. How many of you remember what is Nishkama Karma Yoga? Okay, Suchita raised her hands first. Suchita, can you tell us what is Nishkama Karma Yoga?
Yeah, doing our duty without any attachment, and means all results we need to keep it in Krishna's foot. That Krishna will take care of the results.
Excellent. Don't be attached to results and do it in a mindset of humility. That is Nishkama Karma. Does anybody remember what is Sanyasa? Karma Sanyasa? Okay, so that we are going to go deep into that in this chapter, but Krishna had given a glimpse of it. He basically spoke about renunciants, people who renounce their duties. So because Arjuna says that you spoke about sannyasa also, you spoke about karma yoga also. So how can I mean, they seem to be contradictory. Does anybody else feel there is any contradiction in what Krishna has said so far? No? Then you are all better students than Arjuna. Right? So very nice. But let's just hear what Arjuna's problem is. Okay, so Arjuna is only saying that because Krishna spoke about renunciation and Krishna also spoke about performing your duties, he says, you spoke about both, and so I'm confused which is the right one of these two. So it's again Krishna's Leela where he wants Arjuna to ask this question so that humanity shouldn't have any of these lingering doubts in their minds. That is the whole purpose, because then we spend our life in doubts. And there is really no contradiction because Krishna has explained very clearly what Krishna said. Krishna said, Sanyasa is for those who are already perfected souls, who no longer need to perform any social activities. It is for them. And he says that even otherwise, the path of Sanyasa as well as Karma Yoga, they are taking you to the same goal. However, the path of Nishkama Karma Yoga is superior. Now we will see why Krishna says that. Okay, so also we have to keep in mind that when Krishna spoke about renunciation, that sannyasa doesn't mean you give up all duties. That is not what Krishna said. But what it means is you don't spend time in material duties or social duties. But you have to spend time on spiritual duties. So there is still duties. It is just which duty you pick. You have to spend 100% of your time on spiritual duties. That is the real sannyasa that Krishna is talking about. But then you see there is a big risk. That path is very risky. Why? Because you say that, okay, I'm not going to do any material duty. I'm not going to do any social duty. I'm only going to do spiritual duty. That is your approach. And you are saying, okay, I'm going to spend 100% of my time there. But are you really sure that you can have 100% focus? Because let us say you give up everything and then you go sit in a cave and you say, I'm going to now do 100% spiritual duties. But what if you fail? Then what happens is you are neither succeeding on the spiritual path nor are you succeeding on the material path. You are neither here nor there. So there is a big risk in that path. So that is what Krishna has explained to Arjuna. Okay, let us see. Let us go through. It's like a quick revision now on what all Krishna has told Arjuna so far, so that we can also be very clear on what the messaging is. Okay, so if you remember, the initial dilemma of Arjuna, where he was in the middle of a battlefield, he was nervous, having a mental diarrhea. So there he was leaning towards karma sannyasa. He wanted to give up everything. Like, I'll throw away my bow, I'll throw away my arrow, I will run away, I don't want to fight. He was leaning towards sannyasa there. Right? There Krishna advised him. He said, Arjuna, you have to perform your duty as a warrior. Just don't be attached to the results. Because Krishna then said that mere renunciation of action, which is physical renunciation, doesn't lead to liberation. Now, we are not going to talk about 247, that is the most popular shloka. We will talk about the other things Krishna said. So Krishna said, because physical renunciation doesn't really give you or take you on the path to liberation, you have to renounce the desire for fruits of actions. Some of you may remember the difference between renunciation of action and renunciation in action. So Nishkama Karma Yoga is all about renunciation in action. In other words, you are performing actions, but you are renouncing the desire for results, the fruits of your actions. So in 3.4, Krishna had said very beautifully, he said, Na karmanam anaramban naishkarmyam purushoshnute na cha sanyasanad eva siddhim samadhi gacchati. He said, one cannot achieve freedom from karmic reactions by merely abstaining from work. Nor can you attain perfection by just physical renunciation. And then in 3.8, Krishna said, Niyatam kuru karma tvam karma jayo kya karmanah sharira yatrapi cha tena prasiddhyed akarmanah. Perform your prescribed duty. For doing so is better than not working. One cannot maintain even one's body without work. Do you remember? We explained that how you may think you are doing nothing, but even the act of breathing is generating karmic reaction. Right now, I don't know what all you had for breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever, but your body is busy digesting all of that. That is also karmic reaction generating. You have eaten billions of microorganisms. Even if you are vegetarian, you are still consuming so many millions and billions of microorganisms. What about the karmic reaction of all of that? You see, so Krishna had explained that there is no such thing as inaction. Don't say I'm going to give up, because you cannot give up everything. You will still be doing something. So it is better to focus on Nishkama Karma, where you choose the path of action, because inaction is not possible really. And in 3.9, Krishna had said, work has to be performed as a sacrifice to God. Otherwise, that work will bind you to the material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for God's satisfaction. So whatever we are doing, we have to keep in mind that I am doing it so that God is happy. I am doing my duty. I am doing rightful action, not because I get glory and fame and name, but because this is what God wants me to do. And if I do it, God is going to be pleased. So that mindset, Krishna is saying, you develop. And Krishna again, after that, in 3.20 and 3.21, gave a very important advice about the role model aspect. I hope you remember that. It's a nice sloka actually. Karmaneva hi sansiddhim astika
jnana
janakadayah loka sangraham evapi sampashyan kartum arhasi yad achariti shreshtas tad yavataro janah sa yat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. By performing your prescribed duties, or by performing their prescribed duties, King Janaka and others attained perfection. He is giving the example of really great elevated souls like Janaka. So he says, just like that, you should also perform your duties and set an example for the world. See, the next thing that he said in the Shloka 21 was very, very profound. He said, whatever actions great people perform, common people will follow. And whatever standards and examples they set by their actions, all the world will pursue. We discussed, this is how advertisements work, right? Like they will show Sachin Tendulkar standing and saying, Boost is the secret of my energy. Doesn't matter if he really drinks Boost or not. But the youngsters will all follow that example because they really have so much respect for Tendulkar. Now, if Tendulkar did something wrong, if Tendulkar stood and said, alcohol is the secret of my energy, then millions of people would have gone and drunk alcohol also. So that is the importance of, if you are in a position where people are looking at you and observing you, what you do is impacting not just you, but also others. So especially parents, as parents, we have to be extremely careful what we do, how we talk, because our children are observing us and it is impacting them. So that is another perspective Krishna is providing to Arjuna. He's saying, you are a Kshatriya. You are very strong. You are very popular. The world knows you. And if you run away from the battlefield, that is going to set a bad example for the rest of the humanity. Now everybody else is going to say, I will also run away. I will also not do anything because Arjuna did it. Krishna's friend Arjuna did it. You see? So that is another perspective Krishna had given why Arjuna should not discard his duties. And then in 4th chapter, Krishna explained the various kind of sacrifices that are required. And Krishna also said, you have to understand the intent and purpose of the sacrifices. And even if rituals you are performing, you have to understand what you are doing, why you are doing, and don't just blindly do mechanically. And in 4th chapter, 4.41 and 42, Krishna had reiterated what is the right way to perform action. Yoga sanyasta karmanam, jnana sanchinna sanyasham, sanshayam, atmavantam na karmani, nibatnanti dhananjaya. One who has renounced the fruits of their actions, who has doubts cut off by wisdom, and who is situated within the self, is not bound by actions. Tasmad anyana sambhutam, kritstam jnana sinatmanah, chitvainam sanshayam yogam, atistotishta bharata. Therefore, cutting through this doubt in your heart with the sword of knowledge, resort to yoga. Stand up. Oh, Bharata. See, this was a strong message. He told Arjuna, stand up. You have the knowledge, you have the wisdom. You know what is right. Now just stand up and do the right action. You remember, we also discussed how reducing ourselves to zero would prevent any karmic accumulations from impact. You remember that? Can anybody quickly explain what that concept was?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Sulata ji.
When you adopt humility and be devoid of ego and pride and reduce, that is reducing ourselves to zero. So whatever, however big the problem or the challenge is, so the effect of that action or whatever it is will be nullified, negative.
Thank you. So happy that you remember, yeah. So we discussed that in mathematics, if you multiply 1 by 0, the result is 0. You multiply 10 by 0, result is 0. You multiply a billion, trillion, doesn't matter. It can be a gazillion, but you multiply by 0, the result is still 0. So Krishna says, become 0. Now, how do you become 0? That is the science of Nishkama Karma Yoga, where you are doing action without a sense of ownership, without sense of doership, and without attachment to results. You are doing just what is right. And you are doing because it is the right thing to do. And you are leaving everything else to God. So that is how you are reducing yourself to 0. So none of the karmic implications can affect you, whether good or bad. See, keep in mind, if you want to have liberation through karma yoga, then the rule is you have to have 0 karma. You should definitely not have negative karma. You cannot also have positive karma. It's a very, very complex game. So you have to have net 0. Then you get, how can you, do you think you can use your intellect to actually balance your karma? No, because many times you don't even know whether what we are doing is actually longer in the grand scheme, good karma or bad karma. We gave the example of, you are teaching something to somebody. You think teaching is a good act, good karma, but if the student uses the knowledge to do something bad, then that karma also comes to you. But you have absolutely no control. So how can you use your own intellect and willpower to get net 0 karma? It's not possible. So Krishna says, it's a very beautiful mechanism. He says, okay, you just become 0. That way, then the karma doesn't matter if it is positive or negative. Multiply by 0, it will be 0. Very profound. If we understand what Krishna is saying, this is probably the most important message for why Nishkama Karma is so important. And thus, in 5.2, Krishna says that Nishkama Karma Yoga is superior to Karma Sanyasa. His words are, he says, both renunciation of action and the yoga of action, they both lead to the same supreme goal. But out of these two, the yoga of action is superior to the yoga of renunciation. In other words, Nishkama Karma Yoga is superior to Karma Sanyasa. This is Krishna's own words. So let's keep that in mind. So in other words, Nishkama Karma Yoga basically is a safer and better path for all of humanity. That is the reason why the Bhagavad Gita is, the setting of the Bhagavad Gita is in a battlefield. It is not in a mountaintop, it is not in a cave, it is not in a temple. That setting is in a battlefield. Because this is the message Krishna wants to send to people. That you can get liberation even while fighting your war. In fact, he says we should all fight our wars. Not try to find escape. Because that escape path is very hard, very difficult. And not all of us can escape anyways. Right? Even in our current day-to-day lives, we have bills to pay. We have so many responsibilities. We have kids we have to take care of. So that doesn't mean that we cannot get moksha or liberation. That thought shouldn't come. That I am a grahastha, I have so many responsibilities, I have so many duties. How can I get liberation? When will I get time to go and sit in a cave? And Krishna says, you don't have to. Krishna says, be where you are. Take care of all your duties. Just do it the right way. And that itself will give you liberation. It is a very empowering concept. And there is one very other important thing Krishna says, that when we are doing Nishkama Karma, humility we all understood, lack of doership, ownership, that is all understood. Not being attached to results also understood. There is one more important thing Krishna said, which we tend to forget, that Krishna said, you have to avoid both attachment as well as aversion. That is kind of a finer detail that we have to keep in mind. It is not just that don't be attached. Yes, attachment is not right, but aversion is also not right. Because why? Anybody remembers why we should not have aversion also?
Aversion makes us to not love, because the love is the main thing
Okay.
in the bhakti yoga. So when you're getting aversion, means the negative energy also is coming to you.
Okay.
And also, if you're having aversion, saying something towards them, means you are cleansing their sins, and you are getting bad karma on you.
Okay. Not that's also fine. Yeah. Any other perspective anybody has? Yeah,
Yeah,
Sulata ji?
we will still be thinking of that thing which we want to run
Yes.
away from.
Yes.
And that will be one
Yes.
step
Yeah,
later.
just with the example of coffee, you said no coffee, still coffee is there.
Yes, exactly. So if Krishna says, don't be attached, and you are saying, okay, what am I attached to? I'm attached to, say, I'm giving a very silly example because that is how you can remember. But a silly example could be coffee. You're like, I'm so attached to coffee that I'm not able to focus on spirituality. All the time the thought of coffee comes. So then you decide, okay, now I'm not going to be attached to coffee. But then what happens? You are saying no coffee, no coffee, no coffee. Instead of saying, yes, coffee, I want coffee, I want coffee, you start saying, I don't want coffee, I don't want coffee. But at the end of the day, it is still coffee, right? That is what is in your mind. It doesn't matter whether you say, I want or I don't want. And so it doesn't serve the purpose. So that is why Krishna says, aversion is also not helpful. So what happens how can you avoid aversion as well as attachment? That is the whole concept of samatva. Okay, today it is hot, tomorrow it will be cold. So accept both and maintain a evenness and calmness of mind. Today you may make some profit, tomorrow you may make some loss. Handle both equally. So that way you are not attached to profit. At the same time, you are not averse to profits. And same way with loss. You are not attached to loss. You are not averse to loss also. Take everything. That is why samatvam, that concept will keep coming throughout the Bhagavad Gita. Because that's very, very important. And about this whole concept of, perform your duties, do the rightful actions, Even if it is difficult, even if it is hard, don't try to run away. Because running away is not a solution, because you cannot run away from life. You cannot run away. The universe will, where will you run? And the universe is infinite. You will still be in the universe only somewhere, and you are under the control of the universe, right? So there is in the West, they say you can run, but you cannot hide. so running is like a short term, it's not going to help. So for that concept, there is a beautiful story that Swami Mukundananda, he gave this example. I was attending one of his lectures, and there he gave this example which I really liked, and I thought I will use it in this session here. So he spoke about a big piece of wood which is talking to a sculptor, a very, very talented sculptor. Sculptors are the guys who make idols. So the wood is asking the sculptor, are you ready to make me and convert me into something beautiful? So the sculptor smiles and he says, I am ready, but are you ready? So the sculptor is asking the piece of wood that I am ready, dear, but are you ready? And the wood says, yeah, I'm ready. So the sculptor he gets to work. And he starts chiseling the wood. That is how you make an idol out of a wood, right? He starts using his chisel and hammer and he gets to work. And the wood starts screaming. It says, hey, stop, it is so painful. What are you doing? I'm very uncomfortable. The sculptor says, I asked you if you are ready, because until I use my hammer and chisel, there is no way you are going to become anything beautiful. That's the only way. So the wood thinks about it and it says, if it is the only way, okay, but at least go easy, a little slow. Don't be so fast and so hard on me. So the sculptor says, okay, I will not do it slowly, but I'll still have to do it. So that is the story where every day, little by little, the sculptor keeps chiseling and polishing that piece of wood. And eventually, one fine day, that wood becomes a beautiful idol of God, which they place in a temple and everybody is worshipping it. So our lives are like that. If we want to evolve into something better, if we want to evolve into something bigger, then we shouldn't say that I don't want to feel uncomfortable or I don't want pain, because that is the only way. So all these difficulties that come in our lives, all these hurdles, they're all like, God is using the chisel and hammer to shape us into something better, something beautiful. So instead of telling God that I don't want pain, I don't want discomfort, you have to tell God that go easy on me, but do what has to be done and give me the strength to face these hurdles. Give me the strength to go through these pains and come out successfully. That should be our prayer, actually. Because that is what is going to actually help us reach our ultimate goal. And in 5.4, Krishna says, see, there is a misconception about, and people think that, because Krishna spoke about Sankhya in chapter 2, he had a lot to say about Sankhya. And he also spoke about karma, Nishkama Karma. So Krishna is saying that the ignorant will say that they are very different paths, but it is not like that. They are not very different. They both lead to the same goal. And Krishna says, in fact, and this is what we discussed in chapter 3 and 4 also. In fact, jnana, knowledge, is not different from karma from our perspective on what we want to do with it, because jnana helps us understand how to do karma the right way. So when we combine jnana with karma, it becomes Nishkama Karma. And when we do Nishkama Karma, it generates bhakti. And when we practice bhakti, eventually we get to liberation. So it is all connected, interlinked. So that is the message he gives in 5.4. I hope this all made sense. I think with that we can wrap up today's session. Hare Krishna, thank you so much. It's a great start to 5th chapter. It's a wonderful chapter. it will give us a lot of conviction in Nishkama Karma. That is the whole purpose. So, did anybody have anything to say or ask? Feel free. I'll keep the line open for some time.
Yeah, Guruji, I had a question. I mean, just a thing that came to mind. We say we should practice samatva, no attachment, no aversion. But we as human beings are made of emotions, and emotions are connected to your heart, where you feel high, low. So, I mean, recently, I mean, I keep thinking about it, and then no attachment, no aversion, samatva. The whole what I'm trying to say is the rus of life. I mean, life is all about that only essentially. And if we don't have it, somewhere I was just getting a feeling, won't it lead to a depression kind of a thing? I mean, because there's no excitement, there's nothing. There's just you get where I'm coming from. I was trying to put that all thing together. Then what is there in life?
Yeah, good question. Awesome question. See, depression is also an emotion, by the way.
Acha,
So
okay.
if you are emotionless, you cannot be depressed also. so, so it is not about not having any emotions. That is not the point. The point is directing your emotions in the right way. So this is what we studied even when we studied bhakti. So for example, we said that you are feeling a lot of attachment. You're like, you feel like you want to express your love, let us say. But instead of being attached to like your dog or a cat, you can direct that towards God. That emotion doesn't go away. All Krishna is saying is direct that emotion towards God. Okay. So just like that, instead of saying that if I have my favorite food, then I will be happy. You want to feel happy, right? Start feeling happy by doing the right actions and dedicating the results to God. Be happy. God wants you to be happy. But let that happiness not depend on material attachments. That is what Krishna is saying. Just like that, if you want to feel unhappy, feel unhappy. But that unhappiness has to be because you are not progressing spiritually, or because you don't think you are getting closer to God. Have the unhappiness, let the unhappiness be for that. But feel it. That's okay, right? Your unhappiness should not be because I didn't get my favorite dress or I didn't get my favorite food. That is aversion, right? This dress, I cannot stand this dress. That is aversion. That gives you unhappiness. So all Krishna is saying is divert or direct your emotions, direct your focus towards God. That way, we discussed it is bhakti and Krishna consciousness. It's not about chodna. It is about jodna. Okay. So you bring God into the equation. That is all we are talking about. And eventually, then you will get into a state where material things don't impact you. Material things don't make you happy or sad. That is where you want to be. That is the real samatva. See, even Jesus, when he was on the cross, he was disappointed. He said, Father, why have you forsaken me? That is what he said. So even at that elevated level, it is okay to feel emotion, and he felt it, but he was still directing it to God. And eventually, of course, God, convinced him, or God kind of helped him, and that is the whole moral. That is the whole story. I hope this makes sense, Deepaji.
Sure it does. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your support, all of you, and being here. I'm really looking forward to continuing this journey. Usually when we start, there's a lot of josh, but when we progress, only a few are able to sustain it. But my request is don't give up. Difficulties will come, hardships will come. Take them as opportunities to tell God that I'm ready. That is how it should be. We cannot use every difficulty as an excuse to say that, oh, because I'm having this difficulty, I'm going to not focus on God. That is counterproductive. So my request is, use every difficulty as an opportunity to tell God, okay, I'm going to overcome this. I'm going to still focus on you. Good try. You are trying to, distract me. I'm not going to get distracted. Use your, pride in the positive way towards God. And it will be super awesome. Very soon we will all get into the bhakti part of Bhagavad Gita. And I am really looking forward to that journey with you all. So thank you so much. Poonamji, you want to say something?
I just want to give the example of Lord Jesus. I want to relate Kalpana ji's blessing program. When they were nailing Jesus, Jesus asked forgiveness for the people. He said, Lord, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. It was very painful. It was very painful for him. He's saying, still forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. They're just misguided. So I can relate to Kalpana ji's forgiveness plan, that whatever people do, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing, what harm they're doing. I remember I've read somewhere this.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, the forgiveness helps us maintain samatvam, because we are not getting into a mode of vengeance and hatred. So very important. So as Krishna said, what Jesus did or said, so many of us are following his example. And that is exactly what Krishna said. Be careful what you do, what you say, because people are going to follow. So another reason why Nishkama Karma is so important. So thank you, Poonamji. Thank you so much.
Prabhuji, I had a question.
Okay.
Where we were just discussing about attachment and aversion. Is anger and hatred similar to aversion? Is it like synonymous?
It depends on hatred. Definitely, hatred is aversion.
Yeah.
But anger, it depends on what you are angry about. If you are angry because something you don't like is in your life, that is aversion for sure. But as Krishna himself has said, you can direct the anger in the right way. Like if you are angry because you think you are not progressing spiritually, that anger is okay. The example given in the scriptures is Lord Hanuman. Like Hanuman was angry that what is Ravan doing? He is being adharmic. Hanuman was not having personal hatred or enmity with Ravana. And when Hanuman burnt Lanka, it was not because he was personal enmity with anybody in Lanka. He was angry because he thought, Ravana was being adharmic. And whatever he was doing, he thought he was doing it in service of Rama. It was not a personal enmity or a personal ego that was at play. He truly, genuinely believed that he was being a servant of Ram and what he was doing. That is why that act of anger is not looked down upon in our scriptures. Nobody says, because Kama, Krodha, Moha, Lobha, they are all vikaras, right? But Hanuman is considered like so superior, so supreme. People don't attribute that act as a vikara, because that anger was in the service of Lord. So that is okay. So anger, I would say, is something we need to understand better, but hatred for sure is aversion. I hope that helps. Thank you for these wonderful questions. Really appreciate that.
And one more question. But I think Ekansh or somebody other than had their hands up. Or
No,
can I
don't
ask my
see.
question? Okay.
Yeah, I don't see anybody else hand up. So.
Okay. When the teacher is performing their duties in delivering knowledge, they are doing that as in a form of Nishkama Karma. So how is that act related with how the students perform, or how are students' actions affecting teachers' karmas then? Because you said something, if the student fail, then that's gonna come back to the teacher as well, right?
Yeah, so what I was saying is, as a teacher, if the teacher is in a mode of doership, I am teaching, so I am doing something great. I am generating positive karma because I am teaching, right? Then If the student misuses the knowledge, then that bad karma also belongs to the teacher. That is how the game of karma works. But when the teacher is teaching, if the teacher is teaching because the teacher says, I am teaching because this is the right thing to do, and I'm leaving the results to God. If my student succeeds, let God take the credit. If the student is succeeding, I'm not going to go and boasting, saying, oh, that was my student. I taught, so that sense of doership and ownership, if you have it, then the negative karma is yours. If you don't have it, then the karma is not yours, either good or bad. That is what I was trying to say. Hope that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, dear Satsang family. Hare Krishna. See you all again in the next session.
Hare Krishna.
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 Thank you.